Hey peeps, welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk about all the Cataclysm professions and what they offer for you. First up, let's start with tailoring, which offers you light weave embroidery and sanctified spell thread. Light weave embroidery is a back enchant that gives you 580 intellect on a proc for 15 seconds, which obviously is very useful to snapshot your fire alley. Then we also have the sanctified spell thread, which is the exact same thing as the powerful ghostly spell thread, which is just a leg enchant that gives you 95 intellect and 55 spirit. The only upside of the sanctified spell thread is that you can basically just craft it with 3 Internium threads instead of needing all the other items to craft the powerful ghostly spell thread, which obviously at the start of the expansion, once you have the powerful ghostly spell thread recipe, you can just craft them and put them on the auction house to make some money. Now let's talk about the average intellect gain from tailoring, which is 120 intellect through the back enchant overall in a fight. Now let's talk about jewel crafting. Jewel crafting gives you the option to craft 3 brilliant chimera eyes, which gives you 67 intellect per gem. Depending on which gems you're using, aka brilliant Inferno Ruby or brilliant Queen's Garnet, you get either a 51 intellect gain through the 3 brilliant chimera eyes or an 81 intellect gain. Just depends on which gems you're using. Now for blacksmithing, there are 2 things you can get: a socket in your bracer and a socket in your gloves, which obviously allows you to wear 2 additional gems. Depending on which gems you're using, if you're using the Brilliant Queen's Garnet, you get 100 intellect gain through the 2 extra slots, and if you're using the Brilliant Inferno Ruby, it's only an 80 intellect gain. Now for alchemy, you basically just get an 80 intellect gain through the mixology passive, which increases the duration and the effect of your flask. Same goes for enchanting, it gives you an 80 intellect gain through enchanting both of your rings with 40 intellect each. Then we're coming to engineering, which provides you an 80 intellect gain on average through the synapse springs. You also have to keep in mind that the synapse springs hands enchant does actually put a cooldown on your unused trinkets, so you cannot use unused and this at the same time, meaning you do want to have passive trinkets. You also get the grounded plasma shield, which gives you a really big shield which can backfire, where you AoE taunt and take aggros on all nearby mobs. So if you're on range and you're super far away in a boss fight, you should be fine. Now let's talk about inscription. Inscription gives you the Fellfire inscription, which is a shoulder enchant that provides you 130 intellect and 25 haste rating. This you have to compare to the Therazane reputation grind, which gives you a shoulder enchant for 50 intellect and 25 haste. So compared to the Therazane enchant, it will give you an 80 intellect gain. Same goes for leatherworking. Leatherworking gives you a wrist enchant that gives you an additional 80 intellect gain over the normal enchant get. And then we have herbalism, which is actually quite special because it provides you an 80 haste rating gain an average through lifeblood. This profession might come in handy in P1, where your haste rating isn't that great just due to the fact that you don't have that much gear, but I wouldn't really grind my teeth over this because just play for the long game, honestly. And if you look at it, the long game would technically be tailoring plus blacksmithing or jewel crafting. Jewel crafting obviously would only be an actual gain if you don't have epic gems, which I assume most people won't have because they are quite expensive and hard to get. But then at the same time, you also get 80 intellect through the synapse springs from engineering, which technically would be 20 intellect less than blacksmithing when you have epic gems. But engineering also gives you bombs, it gives you the plasma shield and rocket boots, which are quite helpful. Obviously this is just speculation, we do not have the sims yet for Cataclysm, they are not updated. The beta also got delayed for some odd reason, meaning they could technically be doing some changes and some cooking on professions or items or something like that, maybe even class balancing. So we have to wait until the beta is actually live. So what are we going to take from this profession talk? Technically, tailoring plus engineering could be the call for early game, and then later on when the epic gems are live, we might be using tailoring plus blacksmithing for a higher intellect gain, just due to the fact that we do have the glyph with lightning bolt where we can move, and we also have Spirit Walker's Grace, which allows us to use spells while moving, any spell really, for 10 seconds. Now there is a profession that we haven't talked about at all, and it's also a secondary profession that can give you a nice DPS boost in pre-biz loot. It's called archaeology. It gets added in Cataclysm. It's basically kind of like mining or herbalism, where you go around the world and collect things, but this is obviously a secondary profession. You go around in certain areas and you survey, and then you get archaeology fragments. There's different factions in these archaeology artifact weapons and artifact things that you can collect, but the most important ones for us is gonna be the dwarf ones or the Tolvir one. The dwarf ones give you the staff of the sorcerer, and the Tolvir ones give you the staff of Immune. Both of these staffs are going to be better than what you can get pre-biz from dungeons, unless they are going to put up the item level in heroic dungeons. So I would recommend actually farming these if you have nothing else to do. It's going to give you a nice DPS boost in the first few raids. Obviously, if you are in heroic raiding guild and you immediately go into heroic, and main hand is going to be immediately an upgrade over these weapons, but still, this is going to give you a decent boost the first few raids, and I would recommend going for it. Now, this is basically everything. I wanted to make this video not to talk about Elemental Shaman's biz professions, but just to shine a light on every single profession that there is in the game. And obviously, you can take this with a grain of salt. You can say, I don't want to go tailoring, I don't like RNG, so you rather go blacksmithing and get a 80 to 100 intellect bonus 100% of the time, and that's totally your call to make. Obviously, it is not going to be as bad because professions are very close. That's it for now though. I hope to see you in the next video, and of course, whenever the sims are updated for Cataclysm, I will make another video talking about the best professions that give the most DPS for elemental shamans. But until then, I shall see you later. Bye bye.